Okay, folks, here we are, Wednesday evening, and I really didn't feel like doing any painting today, but I talked myself into it by doing something different. I just didn't feel like painting 15 millimeter Bowman, which is what I was going to end up doing. So we pulled out some things here, kind of a blast from the past. And these are a couple of, I don't know if calling them kits is accurate, but here's a couple of miniatures, war game miniatures that I have from a while ago. I probably got these 20 years ago. And they're a couple of 20 millimeter scale or 1/72nd scale miniatures by a company called BP Cast. And this one is a BT-7 light tank, Russian light tank. And this is a BA-20, I think. BA-6, it's a 6 or a 20 or something like that. I don't remember. I haven't done World War II stuff in a long time, about 20 years. So I've had a hankering lately to maybe paint one of these up. And these aren't the best models. That's kind of an understatement. They're resin. They're pretty crude. As you can see, I already epoxied the sides on here, but the fit and finish on here is pretty lackluster. They're wargaming figures. They're wargaming miniatures. So they're going to need a little bit of cleaning up. And maybe paint up a tank. I haven't painted one up in a long time. I certainly haven't painted up a tank since my new painting method. And, see how they turn out. Anyhow, so as you can see, it's not that they're so crude, but they've got a lot of bubbles on there. So we may try to fill some of these out. And then they just have some inaccuracies on here that the real vehicle would not have had. And, the cannon here for the 40, they're both 45 millimeter armed vehicles. This one doesn't have a hole for the coax machine gun. So we'll have to drill that out, put a little piece of sprue in there. I used to build models way back when. We're talking in the 90, 91, 92. And just realized I don't enjoy building a model and having it sit on a shelf and not do anything with it. It doesn't make any sense to me. So I started doing a war game really with this kind of stuff. And I've painted a few vehicles, but I haven't painted one in a long time. So I figured I'd give it a shot just a little bit. Just something I can do in between the other figures as I'm doing them. But we're going to give it a shot with these. Now, these two kits, when I bought them, I pulled them out of the package and I was storing them in this plastic bag. So I'm not sure which parts are for each one. Well, this one obviously has the tires, but here's the two guns. Now, they're both armed with 45 millimeter guns, the same identical gun. It's a 46 caliber 45 millimeter gun. These are both early war Russian vehicles. But as you see, neither one of them has a separate white metal gun that comes with them. And one of these guns, I guess, goes to one of these vehicles, and the other one isn't even the right mount. It has like something else that goes on it. So we're going to have to, like I said, these are very crude models. So I don't want to spend a lot of time I've got other kits I can build, but I don't want to spend a lot of time building them and then not liking how I do the paint job on them. So I think we're just going to jump in, see what happens. Worst case scenario, we'll turn them into a wreck or something. Okay, but they're pretty crude models. So, all right, so let's take a look at a couple things. Now, I've been such a long time since I modeled that I did not have any more of my squadron putting. It's stuff you got to use for gap filling. So I had to go to the hobby store and Hobby Lobby, because that's all we have here. And I don't know how much of this is worth a damn, if this is worth a damn, but this is the only thing that they had. I didn't want to mail order it. Contour putty, Mastic de Coupe. Anyhow, we'll see how this stuff is. I squeezed some of this out at the store a little bit to see that, like, I didn't know what this was, and this is looks like equivalent to some kind of the white putty. So we'll use some of this stuff to fill in maybe some of the worst of all of these gaps. So, but what I really wanted to get to is the painting phase. But there's lots of painting guides out there, and let's get my X-Acto knife out here, but not the good one because I have two. That's the good one, which is the one that's a little bit more blunt. Maybe they're both. All right, that's the newer one. Let's just start off by cleaning this up. And I think for simplicity, we're going to do the tank first. So let's just put the armored car over there. We're just going to assume that this is the gun that came for the tank. Try to clean this up and see what we've got. We're going to need to get some drill bits in here. And if I just end up doing this for this evening, then no big loss. But I just didn't feel like painting 15mm Bowman. But I did want to do something hobby related. So this might be just a one-off thing, or it may not be. We'll see. To be continued, right? Now, what would help is I'm going to get ahead of myself. I pulled I've got just about every color in Vallejo because I ended up selling a lot of my stuff in the early 2000s, and I ended up buying all the paint colors. Not that I've used any of them. And I've got this Russian green here, which is I took the easy way out and went to the Flames of War website. Not that I do Flames of War, but they've got some good starting points for a lot of stuff there. And this is the green they recommended on here. So that's what we're going to do. Of course, we'll be painting it with my own method of, using a million different shades. So this is just kind of going to be the starting point. We'll drop that in here. We're going to need to shake this thing up because I fished the Russian green up today and I realized it was very separated. I don't think it's probably ever been used. All right, now let's go back to the drill bits. My pin vise is here somewhere. We're going to need this. We're probably going to need that. Mr. Pin Vise. Okay, this should do fine. So I actually have quite a few 20mm figures painted already. Now, I think they look pretty good. They were done probably 20 years ago. I think they still look good by today's standards. They're semi-gloss. So if I get back into this, all I got to do is just touch them up and put some flat on them, and then redo the bases, because the bases are very rudimentary. And I'm gonna do next time I have to base a unit. I'm gonna do some of the basing on these guys and bring them up to standard and see how they look. But these Chinese things don't open the easiest. Let's see what we got in here. It's relatively big. Okay. Yeah, so when I stopped doing World War II stuff, I don't think I was doing anything with epoxy. and now it's what I use all the time. So things have definitely changed. I did a lot of dry brushing and stuff back then, and I don't do any of it now. All right, now, before I get carried away, because this is not the best model, that's an understatement of the century. Let's. I have a ton of World War II books, and I know this is kind of those days may be past, but when I stopped doing it, the internet was still in its infancy. So I've got all kinds of textbooks on World War II stuff. I'm a World War II junkie. You guys probably don't know that because you just see me from doing ancients and medievals, but World War II is what really was my first love, really. And Russian tanks, armored vehicles, 1917, 1945. We're going to find a picture of a BT-7 in here. And of course, this is an encyclopedia with all kinds of armor details and stuff. And of course, all this stuff's available on the internet, but it's not really handy right now to get on the internet because, you know, I'm using my phone right now. So let's go to, let's look at some BTs. Yeah, being a World War II modeler, my big gripe was like, man, I wish all these pictures were in color. And then you go to do ancients and medievals, and like, man, I wish there was anything available about these people. So you really just don't have anything to complain about. When you're doing that. Okay, so it looks like the cannon. Geez, it looks like the cannon's on the left-hand side and the machine gun's on the right. But then this one looks backwards. Yeah, here we go. Okay, and it is telescoping looking like that. Okay, cool. That's what we're gonna go with. Yeah, I'm not sure how these kits were made. It almost looks like these were a model kit, and then he made a resin kit out of from the actual model kit. It seems like that's the case. Anyhow, they're war game kits. So here is the dimple there for the gun. Let's go. This shouldn't take long because we're only dealing with resin. We're not even drilling in white metal. Oh yeah, I remember the smell of this stuff. It smells like mothballs. For whatever reason, this stuff smells like mothballs. Poison. All right, we're gonna need to go bigger than that. Do I have a little bit bigger than that one? Like I said, I'm just kind of screwing around. You guys are screwing around with me. I just didn't have the. I think that's the same freaking size. It's not going to be big enough. All right, let's enlarge the edge then. Yeah, I used to do 1/35th scale models. Not worth a damn. Not compared to the stuff that's out there now. A lot of these people that do models, I swear they look so good. They look better than the real tank. They look too good. So yeah, all my wargaming in the past, all my wargaming in the 20th century focused on on machines. So it was either ships or tanks, pretty much, obviously people as well, but it was all I wasn't doing anything horse drawn or anything like that. That's new to me. Don't know if you guys knew that, but that's what it is. Yeah, I bet this thing that was supplied isn't even from this gun. Like I said, this is and there's still BP cast stuff out there selling on eBay. So well, I could have bought these kits in plastic. There's a company called Pegasus. They make BT7s. They come two to a pack, and they're about $16 or something like that for two of them. And they're easy build, which means you don't have to build all the running gear, because I'm not doing that anymore. You know, those days of putting on like the running gear of like a Panzer IV that has 32 road wheels, little road wheels. I'm not doing that. I'm a painter. I don't want to spend the whole time building these things, you know, because invariably you'll have to sand them and do all that crap. Like, nah, I want to take forever to paint, not take forever to build. So there's some rapid build kits now where you can focus on your painting. And Pegasus is one of them. They make BT7s, and they also make this armored car. I just didn't want to turn around and get this wild hair up my ass that I have right now, and then spend 30 bucks or something to buy these kits, and then when I get them here I lose interest and I want to go back to my 15s. If tomorrow, if I never do anything with these, then it didn't cost me any money. I already had these kits. Does that make any sense? Anyhow, that's my reasoning on it. So that's what I'm sticking with. I think we need to open this up a little bit more and then we'll be good. Yeah, it'd been so long since I built plastic kits. My weld cement went bad, so I had to go buy weld cement. So I actually I ordered one from, I don't use it on this because this is resin, but I bought two at the store, and then the one I wanted that I used to have is kind of a non-toxic one. I had to mail order on eBay. So I might do a comparison on all those weld cements on a separate video for those of you that are interested. Well, as I like to say, I do it for me, and then if one of you guys decides to find it interesting, well then, you know, so be it. Bonus round. Where'd it go here? Okay, so that's done. Let's put this here. And this is where the MG's gonna go. Coaxial machine gun and a two-man turret. It's a two-man turret. There's a loader, and then there's a commander that is also the gunner. So he's got a lot going on. He's got his hands full. And that was the case for many of the early war Russian tanks, unlike the KV series. But you know, even the T-34, as good as the T-34 was, it had a two-man turret. So you had a commander whose role was also to fire the gun. So that's what made the Germans more efficient than the Russians. Is they had the trained crews from all their earlier campaigns, plus they had a commander that had their own role of being the commander, not stuck being the loader. Even though their tanks were, from armor and firepower standpoint, not necessarily better than their opponents, but their command and control was, at least early war. Okay. Now, are there any really nasty things we got to deal with here? this is definitely a War Games figure. You've got the backside of the tracks aren't even detailed or anything. It's just total flat resin. I figured, well, if I'm going to screw around with something, let it be this one. I got nothing to lose. Okay. It looks like it's sitting kind of flush. Just wanted to do something different tonight. Something on here is not Liam. It might be the peg that's off sideways a little bit. Oh well, I knew it was crude. All right, we got that. We got this. Let's I'm not going to use super glue. We're going to use epoxy. We're going to use epoxy because we're going to epoxy something to the bottom of this. We're going to put one of these, we're going to put the screws to them. We're going to put the screws to them. As soon as I find all my stuff, I do such a good job of putting everything away. When I start something new, I can't find what I'm using. Where's my box of screws? Oh, I moved them over here. That's not it. This is it. Okay. All right, we're going to epoxy one of these on the bottom. All right. Now, let's cut off a piece of this. And if we're going to epoxy that, we're going to have to epoxy these two things. We're going to put the screw on the bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this screw on here. So when we're painting this, we got somewhere to hold it. Okay, that's how I roll. Okay. If we're going to have to do that anyways, let's take a look at these tires on this armored car and see if we can't bring her up to the same level that this other one is. Only 200 more to make. No, I'm afraid not. When I played World War II stuff, I played skirmish, or as I like to call extreme skirmish. So you won't have more than 3 or 4 vehicles on a side at the most, and that's really saying that's an extreme example. I'm not used to working with the stuff that smells. Like the fact that this smells like mothballs is kind of unusual to me. Just like when I was looking at those weld cements, a couple of them are really smelly, really stinky, strong smelling, and it's unusual for me. What the weld cement I had before was this one made by Microscale, and it had like a faint orange smell. Like, well, honestly, it smelled nice. So, but it dried up on me. Of course, I hadn't used it in almost 20 years, probably. But I got so many glues now. I got epoxy, and now I'm like one with the epoxy. I wasn't. I had bad experiences growing up with epoxy, where you'd get, I guess, stuff that had been sitting on a shelf for a while, and it never some of it that didn't cure, doesn't cure well, and so forth. So, but now I'm like one with the epoxy. Okay. All right. I think we got to clean up on this thing. I glued one tire on here, and I got, look. I mean, there's no there's the detail on that wheel is not bad. Okay, and it's got all kinds of bubbles here. It's not bad, but now look at the back side of that wheel. It's nothing. It's just like a, these are definitely a War Games model. Now I need to check here. See this little thing there? I believe that's a little pintle mount for a machine gun as well. So let me see if that is the case in the armored cars. I probably could have just looked on the internet and found that quicker, but let's see if I can find. Let's see if armored cars are even in here, because this is just. It says tanks and armored vehicles. It better be in here. Let's go to the index. Let's go to the index. Extreme skirmish. The way I like to describe it is we're doing like you run like half a squad, each person. Almost like a role-playing game, except you're role-playing like different people. No, I ain't found one yet. Alright, that's it. Let's boot up the pooter. Let's boot up the pooter. And they don't have any decals either, but that's why I decided to go with Russians. I'm going to go green, and I could probably paint stuff on myself and be perfectly fine. Let's see here. BA 6, BA 6 armored car. Let's see. Let's take a look at this. Let's see what this is. Now, let's turn the volume off. I don't need every single notification coming through. Okay, it looks like it does have a pintle mount there. Yep. Yep, perfect. Not a pintle mount, a ball mount. Pintle mount would be up for like in an aircraft. That's what I thought. Okay. I'm not gonna make stretch sprue and all that shit right now. We just wanna. I want to get these guys epoxied on. I can do that later. There we go. Are they homemade tanks? They sure look like it, don't they? They're actually by a company called BP Cast. And I think they're model kits that he turned resin and then sold them. That's sure what it looks like. But they're really crude. They're really, really crude. So they got bubbles and, it's more of a bubble issue than anything else. So extreme skirmish is using a hammer to smash up a figure when it becomes a casualty. Not with my figures, you're not going to. And then we'll just glue these guys onto the side. Here, okay? Let's take some of this stuff off. These are really crude. Like I said, this is almost like more of an experiment in I'll have something to paint. When one of my other process things are drying or something like that, it'll give me something to do. Because I haven't touched my World War II stuff in 20 years. But it's not that big of a deal. That's all we used to do is play World War II. That's all we would do. The problem with playing World War II for me is I am such a World War II nut that I require nothing but the utmost amount of detail, which basically means you don't complete any games, and you have to leave them set up. So it's kind of the opposite of DBA. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I could get in here. I could get crazy. Use wet, dry sandpaper. I mean, I don't want to. I don't. There's no point if I'm going to spend that kind of man hours doing this. I just buy a kit for it. So right now I'm just kind of doing the minimum I can get away with. And if I don't like how this turns out, this could end up being a wreck in another game. This could be a knocked out armored car, and it could be a mission. You got some maybe some maps there you have to recover. Stuff like that. I've got probably I've got a squad and a half of Russians and a mortar team for them, and about a platoon of Germans, and about a platoon of Americans. So I was building them for a scenario, and the scenario happened to be in Normandy, so that's why I have the Americans. But I prefer the Russian front stuff. I prefer the Russian front stuff because no matter who you are, you're playing a bad guy. I'm not sure that's looked the same way as it was when I grew up, but when I grew up, that's how it was. It was which bad guy you want to be. So let's cut this off right here because, like I said, this was a mount that almost was like for a different vehicle. Are you going to play the Nazi bastards or the commie bastards? So I like the Russian front. For wargaming. And I like the Western Desert too. I like the Western Desert a lot. But the problem with the Western Desert is, I guess you could do skirmish stuff, but, it'd have to be like night actions or, you know, something in a dust storm where the visibility is kind of down. But I think everybody likes the Western Desert. I think they do. I don't know, I could be wrong. I don't normally play American stuff. I know I've mentioned this before. I'm already American. Why would I want to play Americans? We don't have funny accents and stuff like that. Run around all day and talk like I always do. What's the point in that? You're a Pacific War man myself. Desert second, heaps of skirmish actions around the siege of Tobruk. Yes. Yep. You could even do some what if stuff, like do a commando raid, try and knock out the guns at Halfaya Pass or something. Love those cruiser tanks. And what's not to like about a Matilda? Unless you have to repair one with those road wheels. Whew. That and the Churchill. Getting a headache thinking about it. When you build a model of something and you go, man, this is a pain in the ass, just imagine how the people were that had to work on the real one in the sweltering heat. Pacific. Yeah, I think you mentioned that, Paul. Like the Australians, the Pacific, New Guinea. I got some Japanese too, but never got into the Pacific too much. I had a friend of mine when we were doing naval. He loved the Pacific stuff because he was one of those guys, and I think that's typical. Most people, like most Americans that are war gamers, like to play Americans. Most, I would like to say, and I like, I want to avoid what I already am because I'm already that, So we'll see how this. We got to fill in a lot here, so we're gonna have to make it bigger and then sand it down to the level of that. We don't need to have a ton of extra stuff, but normally I wouldn't worry about it because it is a Russian tank and they make crude things, but sometimes there's a whole piece missing there. So I tend to not play American stuff. Like I have zero interest in playing American Civil War. Zero. It's a period that I don't find interesting, and I don't find the combatants interesting. So, if other people like it, well, that's why they make all kinds of different periods. So, but American history, I'm not particularly interested in. But then again, I'm not. What am I? Second generation? I don't know. My dad wasn't born in this country. I was. So whatever that means. So it's not like I have a different outlook on things, I guess. Man, this stuff is stinky. I am not used to that. I am not used to that at all. Okay. Let's I don't want to spend 3 days working on this. I'm just trying to just make this kind of rough. If I really fall in love with doing this stuff again, I'll order some of those Plastic Soldier Company vehicles and do that. But right now, I kind of wanted to try my hand at doing some weathering, not using an airbrush because I don't have one and I don't want to buy one. I don't want to spend the time cleaning it. I don't like the idea that I can't paint in here. I don't want to go to the garage. So the way I paint is extremely slow, but it's constantly moving forward. I don't have to stop and do something else like a clean and airbrush or something like that. So I think I'm going to try my hand at doing some oil painting with brush, which shouldn't be difficult. I kind of already know how I'm going to go about it. So it's going to be a little bit modified version of what I normally do with my figures. And just see how it turns out. What's the worst thing that can happen? I ruin a kit that's been sitting unused for decades, literally a plural amount of decades. So, all right, let's Matilda's in the Pacific. You're missing out. I played a game of Chain of Command with Matildas in the Pacific. I believe it was in New Guinea, except we were playing the Japanese, so they were basically untouchable. You'd think it was like the Italians not being able to deal with like the Italians having to deal with a Matilda in the desert. It's like the Japanese, except worse because the Japanese didn't have German allies that could call in a Stuka on their ass or or an 88. But yeah, we had to fight those things. We had some 75 millimeter infantry guns and stuff like that. It was cool. I just can't get into the Japanese. I mean, it's fun playing the Japanese and screaming and doing crazy, suicidal type things. But yeah, you like ACW, you find the generals fascinating. They were all crazy cats. Yeah, I the fact that both sides are American and the fact that it's a time period that I don't particularly care for the uniforms, I don't know. It doesn't appeal to me. I've played it before. It just, It's just not my thing. It's just not my thing. So there's just some period of history that just doesn't appeal to some people. I tend to not like periods of history where both people are dressed the same, but just of like different colors. So like I'm not attracted to Napoleonic stuff. And I know that sometimes the Austrians use German helmets, and some Shakos are different than others, and the cuirassiers had. It's still too similar for me. For me, what I wouldn't not play it. I'm just from a standpoint of building stuff from it. None of that lace war stuff like Marlboro. Both sides have the same type of equipment. They're just in different color. It just doesn't really it just doesn't really appeal to me. I guess you could say the same thing about World War II, but I don't know. I'm new to ancients though, so I didn't know jack shit about ancients until 20 years ago, which sounds like a long time ago, but it's almost half my wargaming. So there's a lot of wargaming I did do that I didn't do. I was doing World War II, World War One. So when we did naval, a buddy of mine really liked the Pacific stuff, so I tried to steer him into the ABDA stuff because that was the better part of the Pacific stuff as far as I'm concerned. Once Guadalcanal hits, it's like all carrier battles, and if you're into playing naval games for the big guns and the cruisers and all that stuff, aircraft carriers just kind of ruin the experience. That's not what I'm interested in doing. Planning from a wargaming standpoint, it's just not my thing. But it's kind of one-sided after that point, anyway. So, all right, Where is my tooth? Where's my toothpicks? Boy, I really didn't come prepared today, did I? I didn't do my. Here we go. You're hanging out over here. I'm not set to work on all these on this kind of stuff. Let's cover this before that happens. See? Well, we can't have that. We can't have that. All right, let's start over. Whew. This is why I do this early in the morning. All right. We don't want that on my cutting mat, and I'll have to look at it forever. Right. Let's epoxy this. This is the biggest volume thing we're doing. Okay. And the can for this thing is here. Okay, got it. Just make sure. Yep, we got none of it on there. Good. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I had a glue mark I'd have to look at for the rest of my life. I didn't even buy this blue thing. That was given to me, but I know how expensive they are. They're freaking $30 for something that just sits there. So I want to take care of it because I don't want to have to buy another one. But I try cutting on this cardboard, which everybody at work has instructions to save for me. And that way, if something goes wrong, boy, this really is a piece of work. I probably should have just said F it and throw this thing away. It's not worth my time, but I figured I didn't have anything to lose. I still kind of think that that's the right attitude, but I don't know. Maybe I'll eat my words. We'll see. I just kind of wanted to experiment, painting something a little different. But I may end up regretting it. But I wasn't going to get any 15 millimeter painting done tonight. I didn't feel like doing that tonight. So this is just kind of a bonus. All right, let's see if this is dried up enough to. And I already have these things. It's not like I went out and bought them. I got other stuff, but I got to build them, and just didn't feel like doing that. I got some stuff that's already built that's German. I don't want to get into the building the German stuff today. They have to. Some things you're just kind of when you're doing World War II stuff, you're just kind of in a quandary as to unless you're specifically going to do late war stuff. You're like, okay, I got some Opel Blitz trucks. Should I paint them gray? Should I make them Dunkelgelb? Okay, well, I may need some, so I make some in some of the other. You just have that whole cogitation thing. If you're doing Russians, they're going to be green. Done. Move on. I got some Shermans also to do, but I don't have any decals for. Okay. May have to do this in 2 steps. Okay, let's take a look at this gun, which is really out of scale. This is not really a quality product. Sorry, BP Cast. Guy used to come to our shows in Orlando all the time, and he just stopped going. He fell off the earth. I don't know if he got personal issues or what have you, but he used to be a vendor at all our shows. He used to put on a big World War II game that he supposedly rules, but it was pretty fun. Had a lot of stuff painted for it. And now I see that he sells on eBay, and he's selling a lot of his stuff that he used in games. So I don't know whether he's just want to get out of it or fell on hard times or not sure. But he hasn't been to one of our shows. Well, we didn't have a show last year, but he hasn't been to one of our shows since probably 2004, something like that. 2004, 2005. By the time I started doing DBA, he stopped coming to the shows. Yeah, that's fine. We'll just have to do it in another step. We're going to go ahead and do it now, though. We got all this stuff here. See if we can make another mess, right? Let's flip this booger over. This is back when I'd go to the show and I'd have to buy something. I end up buying these things that I never do anything with them. Try not to do that crap no more. That's wasteful and stupid. It's ordering a plate of food and then not eating it. We've all done it. Let's try to learn from our mistakes. All right, we're going to let that dry a little bit. Whoa, what's happening here? You shut up on the right night. It's tech night. Yeah. Kicking it old school, kicking it 20th century. Some old BP cast models that are rude and crude. And we're going to do a little bit of painting here sometime in the future. And paint some of my World War II tanks, maybe off and on. Todd, I don't know if you knew that I got a lot of World War II 20 millimeter stuff. I've talked about it. I don't know if you've been on or noticing that stuff, but these are my guys. They're very primitive the way they're based. The painting still looks good, but these are probably painted about 20 years ago. These are old combat miniatures from my favorite sculptor of all time. That's what got me doing them. So I did play Command Decision way back then, but this is to play a skirmish game. We were actually coming up with our own rules, but then we settled on a set of rules that's out of print now called the Face of Battle, and it's really small scale skirmish. So all of my figures are labeled, and I am going to rebase them because this is the basing that we used to do in the 1990s. You know, we know better than that now. There's better products and stuff like that. But and the figures are still painted as good as anything I would do now. They just they're on semi-gloss. They're coated in semi-gloss. So we'll give them a flat coat. I already did that to the British NCO. This guy here, and he flattened out pretty nicely. But anyhow, we'll see if we'll give that a spin. If I get back into the mood, I might start painting some World War II 20s again. I certainly have plenty of them. I was thinking about doing some French resistance fighters. That's this extreme skirmish is really well suited to that. So we will see. And there's another set of rules that came out called Firefight Normandy. It's here, Firefight Normandy or Normandy Firefight, one of those two, made by North Star. And they're along the lines of what we were doing as well, except there's zero vehicles in that. There's no rules for vehicles at all. And I don't mind having vehicles as long as they're, you could like pop their tires or, or they're open tops. They can have a grenade thrown in there. But, I don't really want to play something with with anything in them. So for the most part, vehicles are just kind of non-entity in these type of things. So, and yeah, so that's, we'll see. We'll see. Try and do something a little bit different. Might solo game some of this stuff. I know the guys would probably enjoy this kind of stuff, but I haven't played rules in so long. I'd have to do some stuff on the side just to kind of get in the habit. There's nothing worse than, hey, let's play this game, and then you didn't read any of the rules 20 years. Why is this piece set at being difficult like this? You didn't look at the rules for like 20 years, and then when you finally do and get other people to play, you're so rusty that it turns other people off. They're like, yeah, this game sucks. Because, yeah, it moves slow, but it's not boring. But you gotta know what you're talking about, or people are going to get burned out. So we will see. We'll see. Right now, we're just kind of screwing around with vehicles. So, but I'm not going to build models and sit them in a display case. That's just not my. Yeah, see, these things are thick in some places. I got wet, dry sandpaper. I'm not spending 3 hours on this thing to clean it up. This is just going to be, either a junk vehicle or I just kind of want to experiment painting it. I'm a painter, not a model builder. Not anymore. I'm not interested in the model building part. I must have boogered this up while I was doing it. Let's put some more of that putty on there because this thing's missing a whole back corner. So we're going to go bigger than we need. And want to have 1/35th scale flashbacks. Don't have any of those models anymore. I got rid of them. Got rid of them. There's not, you don't have time to do everything, so you got to be picky about what you're going to do. So I think we still got some in here. Let's go ahead and drop that in here. Yeah, we did command decision in micro armor though. So if I was going to play that scale game now, be honest with you, well, it was very lackluster for infantry. I think that the infantry is just very like, it's not any fun to play in that set of rules. So I wouldn't do it. But if I was going to do like a 1 to 5 scale game type of game like that, like command decision, spearhead, something like that, I would probably go with Pico armor, the 3 millimeter, and put like the whole platoon physically on each stand. So in other words, I would make a stand that was, I don't know, maybe about the size of this, and then have like 5 vehicles in here in a platoon. So all the vehicles would be represented, but it would all act like one vehicle. I think that would be pretty cool. They'd paint up quick. The infantry is just really minuscule, and but I've done all that operational stuff before. I've done all those operational scale games. I've played the V for Victory games for World War II. I've played a lot of ASL. Well, not by DBA standards a lot, but quite a bit. And I played some of that new one that's out on the lock and load. And what I really liked was that old computer game, Close Combat. Man, I loved the hell out of that game. That was such a good game. So there's lots of ways to get your World War II gaming out that doesn't involve painting miniatures and playing World War II. So that's, like I said, I'm just kind of doing this just to do it. I already have this stuff. I might as well just do something with it. And let's go get another nail, another screw. Which way you reuse these things? Drywall screws. If you got drywall in your house, these things are spectacular to put just about anything in there. I'm just going to attach another one to the bottom of this BA6 armored car. But these are very crude models. They're, well, I wouldn't even call them models. They're miniatures. Yeah, we'll give this a shot. In between, I paint some archers and I gotta wait for something to dry, whatever. Instead of working on something else, I'll just go back to paint this vehicle for a little bit. You know, I'm sure I'm gonna have to do washes and stuff like that, so I'm gonna have some drying time in between things. So no biggie. Like I said, what's the worst thing that can happen? Well, I put this stuff together and never do anything with it for another 20 years. Well, I spent no money on it. I spent what? An hour working on it? Yeah, just didn't feel like working on 15s this evening. But I'm gonna try doing this without the airbrush. I'm not gonna. I don't feel I've talked myself out of getting one. I was gonna get one, and I bought a cheap one. I've probably talked about this before. I bought a cheap airbrush. Don Harding talked me into the one they had at Harbor Freight for like $80, including a compressor. And yeah, it was a piece of crap, but it allowed me to decide whether or not I wanted to deal with an airbrush. If it was worth all the hassle, because otherwise it was going to cost about $500 or something like that. Just kind of a roundabout price, to get one with a tank and all that. And I'd used one before in the early 90s when I worked at a hobby store. We had access to one. And I never enjoyed the cleaning process. And sometimes you make a mess without wanting to make a mess. And I'm, other than this little spill, which really isn't a spill, I don't really make a mess when I'm painting, but anyhow, I don't want to have to go to the garage to paint. I want to do it all here. And so I'm like, okay, well, let me see what I can do without using an airbrush on a crappy model and just see if it's worth my time to prove to continue on with something like that. And because there are some people out there that do some modeling that is just phenomenal, but I don't think, and this is not me knocking them because they do phenomenal work. It looks better than the real vehicle. That's how good their work is. But I don't think that the vehicles and the figures match. What I mean is the vehicles are ultra realistic and figures are always wargame figures, no matter how good you are, they're still, I'm not going to say a comic book, but they're like a graphic novel. So you've got a graphic novel type figure standing or being part an ultra realistic vehicles. I don't like that discrepancy between them. That doesn't mean they don't do a good job. It's just not my style preference. So I don't think I need to use an airbrush, and I don't think I need to use the the pastels and the dusting things and the Vallejo dirt effects and all that stuff to get the same effect because I don't want it to look that way. I don't know if that makes any sense. But I'm just kind of experimenting. I already had these things. I haven't done a damn thing with them for 20 years, and I figured, well, what the hell? Let's try some Russians. What's the worst? If I really like how they look, I'll pick up some kits of them, and or build some kits and have a few more. But right now, I'm just kind of having fun with it. So yeah, that's what I'm talking about. But uh-oh, let's see here. I bought an airbrush. I hate it. Too much hassle cleaning it. Absolutely. I'm not a skilled modeler. A brush is easier for me to use. For me to get to the point where I'm as good with the airbrush as I am with my paintbrush, I'm going to need to live about another 150 more years. It's just not my thing. So, what am I going to use an airbrush for? What would I find an airbrush useful for? Okay, painting everything overall in the base color. Okay, and then do that thing that's popular now. What's that called? It's zethanol. Okay, and that's what it is. Like you say you do everything in this color, and then you would come up with a lighter color, and then hit like the highlights, airbrush it, and then they come back and hit the dark parts. I mean, I could probably approximate that with my painting technique with brushes. And I don't need an airbrush for anything else. I don't need to do it for extreme dusting because I figure it blends too much. I want a little bit more. I like a little bit more contrast in my painting. I'm not a black liner painter, but I do paint with some contrast. And so I looked at it. I'm like, okay, do I want to spend $500 to get frustrated and pissed off, or just roll with what I already have? I'm just going to roll with what I have. Now I did order some micro set and micro sol. So I got some kits that have some decals, but other than that, I'm just gonna I'm just gonna wing it. I'm experienced enough in painting. I will be able to get where I need to go. It's just a question of whether or not I get burned out doing this, but you know, I don't want to sit here and build the road wheels on a Panzer IV, or a Churchill or something like that, 1/72nd scale or in any scale. I'd rather be doing other stuff than that. So uh, that's why you never bought one. I thought you had one. I thought you had one, Todd. Maybe you didn't. No, that's right. You were using cans. Yeah, I stopped using cans because of the issue. I saw you doing your spray can. You just can't control the thickness. You just get it way too thick, and you end up having a brush anyways. So uh, I'm not going to be. I don't think I'm going to be spraying these guys black. I think I'm going to be using the this Vallejo primer, and see how that works out for me. Because this spreads on anything like butter. It's just amazing, the way it covers. I don't know how protective it is, but it sure covers really easily. So, all right, let's put this guy down. Let's put this guy down. Let's see how the attachment on this thing is so far. Okay. All right, that's good. And okay, here's our BT7. Okay, and we drilled out the little hole there for the coax machine gun. I don't know if they stick out or not, but we'll leave it like that for now. If I put a piece of sprue, you know that old trick that you used to do, you take the piece of sprue that's left over from a model kits and you run it over a candle until it starts to melt a little bit and you pull it and you get like, you can make antennas and stuff out of that. You remember like you guys used to do in the 80s. Yeah, yeah. That was always pretty cool. So, and is this one stuck yet? Yeah, I guess it is. Okay, and here's the armored car. Of course, we're going to have to sand that back corner, but no big deal. Let's see what we're looking like here. There you go. Really, really basic. And yeah, I got some ideas on, there's some real pro modelers out there. I mean, there's some, and so I know what look I want it to have. I just need to be able to do that with the methods that I'm using, not airbrush. And I mean, this isn't very big. It's not like I'm doing something that's 1/35th scale or larger. It's the smaller it is, the easier it is, I think, for those type of things to come out. So, all right, I'm gonna go get another soda, and then I'll be right back, and then we'll drop some Vallejo Primer on here and show you how it flows easy on there. All right. Now, this stuff goes a long way. A long way. So this is the biggest thing I've primed with this. But even so, I don't think I'm going to be using very much of this material. So with that said, we don't want to use this on a wet palette. We want... Here we go. And let's, as I like to say, let's use a brush that we don't love anymore. Or that we never loved. Maybe a little bit. Yeah, let's use this. Sorry, I'm being indecisive. It's late. I make my best decisions in the mornings. Like, I think I'll go to work. All right. Mix this stuff. Somebody said, you got to make sure this stuff's mixed really well, and they scared me straight. I don't dare deviate from that. Yeah, there's some super modelers that are just like amazing out there. But it's funny, I was watching one of them the other day, and this guy's really, really good. And he did one on painting figures that he'd never painted a figure before. And I was watching this video by myself, and when he said that, I busted out. I busted out by myself. I'm like, dude, you've been doing these vehicles forever, and you don't know how to, and you've never done a figure. Now, he still used the same skill, so it's not like his figure when he painted it turned out bad or anything. But he was really apprehensive of doing it because he was outside of his comfort zone. The same way I could say would be my doing these vehicles because I'm not used to doing vehicles anymore. I did them before, but I don't know that I ever liked the vehicle work that I did. That I was really 100% happy with it. So okay, all right. So we're going to start with a BT7, and I don't know how the hell I'm going to do that. Let's see. Let's see if these helping hands really are helping. No. Okay, I guess we'll do that. We'll have to paint that one little spot when we're done. All right, we're just going to grab this on here and no, I didn't wash this resin before I started because I'm a lazy bastard, but it'll be all right. If this doesn't work really well, then I'll just spray paint it. But I figured, I'm gonna give this a shot. But I'm gonna have lots of layers of paint on top of this, and it'll be sealed. So, and it's still a crummy looking model, so it's not like this is gonna go in the mat or anything. The old two-man turret. All right, we'll leave this little booger over here drying. And still caught myself. Jeez. All right. Now, let's see. This should be relatively easy to get this black back in here. See, that's the thing about if I spray paint this, I'm still going to have to hand paint stuff. Because in order to get spray paint to go everywhere, you have to load it down so much paint in some of the other areas that you lose all detail. Well, on this particular model, you wouldn't lose that much because the detail kind of sucks, but you know what I'm getting at. And separate link track. I have zero interest in doing separate link track. They've got now have some kits that have the track already made. You just boom, slap on two sides and you're done. Perfect. That's what I'm talking about. I don't mind spending a long time painting something, but I don't want to fiddle with it that much time. Struggling to paint camels. You don't like painting camels. You know what I don't like doing? The stage I'm doing right now. I detest primer. It's just boring. You can't put it's not like, oh, I'm gonna put my own spin on painting everything black or whatever color. No. Just would rather do anything other than that. I don't mind horses. Sometimes it takes a while to decide what color each horse is going to be. And once I've gotten through that painter's block, as opposed to writer's block, once I've gotten through that, I don't mind them. I mainly didn't wash this thing because I didn't want to sit down. Oh, let's wash it. What did you do today? Well, I washed my vehicle and had to wait for it to dry overnight. I want to start working on this thing, damn it. Hey, it's a crappy model. I changed my mind. I don't like how it turned out. I'll just spray paint black over this. Whoop-dee. I just knew I wasn't going to work on 15s tonight. I wasn't going to be able to work on it long enough to be worthwhile, so we'll save that for Saturday morning. We'll get in there on Saturday and knock out another hour and a half when my daughter goes swimming, and then Sunday we'll do the big push. And maybe we can get all the Bowman done this weekend. Those are your first camels in 28 millimeter. I don't want to paint anything in 28 millimeter. That just take too long. I mean, I'm already taking 4 hours on a 15 millimeter figure. 28 millimeter, I can already see that being like a 10-hour project or something like that. That's just way too long for me. And I got so many 15s already to paint. It's not a cost issue. Yeah, they're more expensive. I know I've mentioned this before. If 15s cost what 28s cost and 28s cost what 15s cost, I'd still do 15s because of the painting time for me. It was just it would be unreasonable how long I would spend on 28s. It used to be I didn't like 28s, but that was 20 years ago. They make all kinds of stuff with 28s and a lot of stuff that looks really, really nice. But, and a lot of it is what are people in your group have? I mean, if I'd started playing DBA and everybody had 28 millimeter, then you kind of have to do that, or you're going to be building armies for everybody. And that was kind of the point I didn't want to do. That was not the objective. Yeah, see, the first thing we're going to do is everything I just painted in black, we're going to cover up basically all of that in a really dark green. So I don't care that don't have perfect coverage on this because I'm going to have to go over everything anyways, even if I did. So, Anzac Camel Corps for World War One Palestine. Cool. You said camels and you said 28 millimeter. And the first thing I thought of was that game of Sword in the Flame that we played. We have a group, our local, and local, I mean, it's an hour and a half away, but our Orlando group puts on, back when they had these things called conventions, they put on the Sword of the Flame game every convention. It was usually Saturday evening and 28 millimeter. And last one they did that I played in, they did one in Afghanistan. And at the old location, because we've now moved to a different location, I like to call it an Irish bar, but it's really we'll take anybody in the UK here bar because it was, you go outside and they didn't just have Irish stuff on it, they had Scottish, Welsh, and British and all that. But anyway, so that was a place that we would go and kick back with a couple of Guinnesses, and we were talking about one of the games we just got done with, and I was just a player. I wasn't a game master, but we started brainstorming, and I was like, the thing about Afghanistan is you could do all kinds of stuff. This is all Victorian age Afghanistan. You could have Russians with other objectives. You could have multiple Afghani tribes. You could have, um, we were coming up with all kinds of brainstorm ideas. You could have some missionaries that are, stuck in the middle of a conflict and they have to get from one point to the other. It's kind of a mix between, say, like a pig wargs game and a sword in the flame, where each side has different objectives and stuff like that. And you could do all kinds of different like factions and stuff like that. And the guy that was running the game was like, yeah, yeah, that sounds really good. That sounds really good. So next convention after that, I asked him. I said, so did you give any thought to any of the stuff? And he didn't remember any of the stuff that we'd brainstormed and talked about. I'm like, how much did you drink, dude? I don't know that I've ever had. I don't know that I've ever had enough to drink where I don't remember a conversation that I had. I don't know. I don't think so. Um, more isn't better. um, yeah, I thought that was funny. We had this great brainstorming session. He didn't remember a thing. Oh well. You're going to use the Osprey rules of Men Who Would Be Kings with a free fan-made variant for World War One Middle East. Great rules, great fun, easy to play. Okay, so it's their own sword of the flame type thing. I've played the only Osprey rules I've played a significant amount. Okay, I played it twice. Now that I thought about it, was Lion Rampant, and I liked it. I like Lion Rampant a lot, actually. Um, a guy put it on. He had all the 28 millimeter figures, and I liked the activation. I like to push your luck, and yeah, I liked it a lot. So, what else do I have? I have Gaslands. That's by Osprey, and I also have what's their modern rule set? I don't remember what it's called anymore. It's out of print now. I have that one. I played that once, and there's things about it I liked it and things I didn't like about it, but it's easy enough to be able to modify for other things. I can never remember what the hell that thing's called. The one that's all the modern conflicts. The problem with those rule sets is the books are so freaking nice. I don't want to use them. I'm kind of a I'm very protective of my books, and if they're really nice books, I'm really protective of them. I don't know. I just was always taught to kind of respect them, you know, keep them in and not bend the edges, and I don't know. I'm anal like that. Whatever, you know. I can never remember what the name of that modern rule set is. I have it. It's out of print. It was pretty popular. Um, no, I can't find it now. Anyhow, I didn't like the saves that it had. So you'd kill all these guys, and then you roll to see if they recovered, and you end up killing nobody. It was kind of it was kind of weird. It's kind of weird like that. Line ramp is very similar to King, who would men who would be kings. Okay, Black Ops. There's a supplement called Black Ops of it, but it's not the Black Ops one. It came in a hardback. I don't remember what it is. I think Black Ops is a separate thing, but um, yeah, I don't remember what it's called. Don't remember what it's called. Force on Force. There you go. That's the one. Yep, I have that one. I picked that up because I was going to use that for another time period. I still have, you know, like most war gamers, I have all these ideas that'll never come to fruition. But then I think I've got the foresight to go, well, I'm not going to start building all this stuff because nothing's going to happen. As I'm painting these vehicles, right? I say one thing and do something else. Hey, I'm just having fun right now. But I have this idea for what I like to call an imagination in a pseudo non-historical African type setting. It could be Central America as well, some Banana Wars type setting. And I'm not interested in using force on force and doing Americans and Soviets or Vietnam or anything like that. But more if you've ever heard of that whole there's this fake website that this guy's been running for many years, and it's been so popular that they even made figures for AK-47 Republic for this, and it's called Bongolesia. So if you ever look at up Bongolesia, this guy's got his own web page and everything where I don't know if he does it that frequently now, but he like gives up news stories and stuff like it's like it's a real nation, but it isn't. Just something along the lines of a conflict like that. So kind of tongue in cheek, kind of a setting where kind of what I was describing, like Pig Wars. You've got multiple factions and they have different agendas, and sometimes they conflict, and everybody's kind of the bad guy. Nobody's there up to any good. And I've got a squad. I've got like 10 of the, I've got 10 or 15 of the local troops already painted, and I was pretty happy with them. But I kind of ran out of steam. It's just kind of limited amount of time that you have to do stuff. So I think I would have gotten a lot more done if this internet sensation that we have, uh, if the internet ability that we have now, like what I'm doing now, was available 20 years ago or 30 years ago. It'd keep me on task to get more things accomplished. And I think that would have been, I would have gotten more things done, but that's okay. I mean, we're doing it now. So, but as I've gotten older, one thing I've noticed is I am very resistant to wanting to learn new rule sets. It's not that I don't want to play new rule sets. I just don't want to be the point guy that has to read all the rules and figure things out. I've already done that already extensively for one rule set, and I'm kind of burned out on it. I'm not kind of burned out. I am burned out on it. It just gets life gets complicated, and the last thing you want to do is try to figure out how to play another game and go through the process of playing something wrong about 100 times before you can play it right. It's just very unsatisfying. So we've played some other stuff that has not been what I am used to, but I have not been the point man on that. So it's like, well, does not mean I'm opposed to playing other things. I'm just opposed to being the guy who the go-to guy on that particular set of rules, because I just don't have it in me. I'd rather paint. I'm more a modeler than I am gamer. I can always if I need to get my game fix, I can always turn on the Xbox or a computer or something like that and get my game fix. This is mainly just to paint models and play with them while they make broom broom noises, so to speak. Maybe this won't look so bad when it's painted up. Yeah, looking forward to this. Yeah, that was the problem with the Germans. I didn't want to throw the Germans in because then I'm like, there's some things I wouldn't mind working on, like the trucks, but then I got to really think, okay, do I want them? Do I want them in Dunkelgelb, or do I want them in or do I want them in gray? And cogitate. Be honest with you, I like my Germans in gray. Not that I don't mind the yellow. It just I think it just kind of fits with their uniforms better. Just think it goes with them better. But if you're doing late war stuff, you can't really do gray. So speaking of Pacific, I do have a BP cast model of a Hago, and cute little thing. And I guess I got a couple squads of Japanese to paint. I just hadn't gotten around to doing them. I bought them when they were available. Now some of these things are really difficult to get a hold of. You're the same. You bought Force on Force, never used it. I feel like the rules aren't well laid out. That doesn't mean the rules aren't any good. They're just not laid out well, but for flow chart. And I do have some added like how to play guides. And I just that's the last thing I want to do when I get home. Black Ops skirmish game, 6 to 10 figures per side. We play Colombian drug wars with it. Okay, cool. Good thing with Osprey rules is that they don't require too many brain cells to work out. Okay. Yeah, I like details, but I don't want to play things wrong. So you gotta keep things simple until you get the basics down, and then you can add more details if you need them. Um, Colombian drug war. I take it you've seen Narcos then. I've seen season one. I thought it was pretty good. I'm not really into drug stuff, um, and I still thought it was good. I don't. I'm not into drug stuff. I mean, stuff where the plot is drugs. So okay. Now, can we mess with this at all, or does it still need to dry more? Ugh, it still needs to dry more. Damn it, man. All right. Well, we're gonna paint everything we can that's not around that. How about that? How about them apples? Inspired by Narcos. You were, or the rules were. Maybe both. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. Me. Okay. So tanks then. Desert campaign? Not with Russians or not. Unless you're doing Khalid Goal. No, we're just, I didn't feel like painting 15, so I'm working on these horrid, primitive BP cast 20 millimeter scale models. 20 millimeter scale. I'm the only one in the US that does this in 20 millimeter. Now, there's a few others, but that seems to be the big UK scale, the big UK scale. I always liked it because I fell in love with these figures. And at the time when I was doing it, 15 millimeter World War II wasn't a thing. And Not that I would have done 15s, but you know, every vehicle is available in 1/72nd scale. They're close to every vehicle. So it just seemed natural to do it in this scale. And 28s historical weren't really much of a thing. Not for World War II, anyways. Yeah, so we got a BT-7 tank and a BA-6 armored car, both of them with a 45 millimeter gun. And they are really primitive. But I want to take a shot at painting these up using my method-ish modified for vehicles and see what they look like. At least that's what I'm saying. I may not touch them after today. They've been sitting. I've had them for 20 years. I never did a damn thing with them. So on one hand, I should probably, if I was going to paint something, maybe get something not so crummy. But the other hand, I don't want to throw money at the problem, and then we'll paint over this and we'll sand it later. I'm not too worried about it. It's on the back. I'm not going to be entering these guys into an IPMS contest. I don't want to go and spend 30 bucks on kits, build them, and then not do anything with them. They've already been bought. I've already spent the money. I got nothing to lose. So okay. All over with the drying. They are resin. Missed some time here. Have you a certain rule set in mind for these vehicles? Yes. I only play. Well, if they get used in a battle, the only game that I play, there's only two games that I play in skirmish because it's extremely small scale skirmish. One of them is called The Face of Battle. It's by a Canadian named Michael Ball that are out of production now, but they came out in the early 2000s. And then maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago, they came out with another set of rules by, I want to say North Star, called Normandy Firefight. And those are pretty close too, but they don't have any vehicles at all in them. So really for the face of battle. So, and it's where, you know, you'd be using like these two vehicles would be the only vehicles on his side, or you'd have only the armored car. It's not like you're going to have multiple vehicles and stuff. It's really the meat and potatoes or the infantry squads. So if you want to play a vehicle centric game, you just play a different type of game. It's not Flames of War or anything like that. It's moving individual figures and running about a half squad per person. So it's really zoomed in, as I like to say. Kevin, you're up at a decent time. Yeah. Usually hear from you when it's like 3 o'clock in the morning on your time. So, okay, so we're gonna have to let these guys dry. This is about as far as we're gonna get tonight. So we've got our BT-7 and our armored car. Really, like I said, really, really primitive. Let's see if I can. There's a lot of the resin, and there's a lot of imperfections on them. But they're War Games models. I already had them. I've had them for 20 years, and it was time to do something with them. And if I really don't like how they turn around, then you don't work. Are you hiring? As I've got a lot of stuff I could be doing if I didn't work. That's my favorite thing when you I call somebody at work and I want to set something up for a delivery on a Friday and said, "Oh, we don't work on Fridays." I'm dying to ask them, are you hiring?" I'd love to have a 3-day weekend. Your slow burn project is World War II early desert campaign in 20 millimeter. Got me some Matildas, Stewarts, M11340s, and some armored cars. Air support's a mix of Gladiators, Hurricanes, and Tomahawks. Okay. Yep. Love those honeys. Love those honeys and that splinter camo, and I love the Crusaders. I like Matildas too, but everybody likes Matildas. And Matildas are just so damn impervious. It's kind of fun to have play something that could get screwed up once in a while. I love the way those Crusaders look. So, what scale you doing those in, Greg? I'm gonna set these guys over here to dry, and we will. I'm kind of itching to give them a green coating in the morning. I did. I picked up this Russian green. I have all the Vallejo colors, almost all of them. That Crusader 2, best looking tank in World War II. It's up there. It's certainly up there. It's certainly up there. It's certainly better than the. I don't like the British and Shermans. I just think that they deserve their own tank. I don't mean it ugly. It's the same reason I've talked about this before. One thing I'll never do is I will never paint a Northwest Europe British tank force and put the star on their turret, like from because they did it in the air, like somewhere on the roof they put it. I'd never do that because why don't the British get their own symbol? Why do they have to freaking use the same one? I don't mean it like they don't deserve to have the American one. I just think that they deserve to have their own one. Why not? That's the way I look at it. Same thing. I wouldn't want to do French. I know. What's his name? Fred Amorph. I'm guessing you're French. I have no problem doing French. I would love to do French, but I don't want to do French Shermans. I'd want to do 1940 French or partisans, or that's probably I've painted any figures. That's probably what I'll do is I'll do the partisans. I've got lots of really cool figures. I got girls in beret with Sten guns and all kinds of stuff. That'd be cool and really well suited for this type of scale game. I got one thing I want to show you guys if you didn't catch one of my feeds. I don't remember if it was Saturday or Sunday that I did, but I brought out some of my stuff that I have. Some of my vehicles I have already made. And the one thing I bought from someone painted. I've never bought something from someone painted figure vehicle wise except this one. This is by the same guy who did the BP cast. He used to be a vendor at one of our shows, and he had this. And I said, I gotta get me this. I gotta get me this. And this is a little taxi. It's a Matchbox car or something that he put different tires on. He actually covered it. I don't know what the model is or whatever, but he signed it. Tom, I don't know what his middle name is. Panetta. Tom Panetta from BP Cast. And this is his little ambulance his little ambulance. His little French taxi. Now, I don't know if it's accurate that the French used a taxi like that, but this is going to be the little vehicle that the partisans are going to pile into and fly out of, and yeah, that'd be good to do the stuff. So, but yeah, I don't want to do French and Shermans. That's not cool. You know, the French had really cool tanks. Why don't they get? Why wouldn't they want to do their own vehicles? You know, but yeah. Let's see. It's so the American pilots don't forget their friends. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not big on doing American stuff, you know. Why build American planes when you can build Spitfires? Spitfires are gorgeous. Much better looking plane, much better camouflage schemes. Everybody wins, right? Um, we'll do some M11340s later this year for North Africa. The counter, I forget that's what it was called. I always want to call it Crazy Quilt. Desert Crazy Quilt. Suck me in for some rubbish. I've got some Vickers Mark 6s, all 20 millimeter scale. You know what I love? I love those Humbers. I love British armored cars. Those Humbers and those Daimlers with the 2-pounder guns. They're beautiful. Oh, the Humbers had what? They had well, they had different versions. They got one that's got the what? The Beza. It's got there's some really cool four-wheel armored cars. Not the Marmon Harringtons. Those things are ugly as shit. But I mean, like the Humbers and the Daimlers, those are really cool. The little guys in the desert. I like the desert stuff. I like the desert stuff. Um, yeah. Taxi. Yeah. What? So you got a driver up here, and then two people in the back, maybe four guys. I can carry four guys in there. I'll have to dig out my figures. I know I've got at least a couple squads of partisans, and that's like ideal. Like you could, each person can run like a fire team. And I don't know if you guys saw this before, but I put surnames on all my figures. So this guy's Campbell, and we got Sharp here, and there's Duncan, and the NCO was a Phillips, so he lost his nameplate a while ago. But with the French partisans, I wouldn't use their surname. I'd give them all first names. So that would that'd be cool. I think that's what I'm going to do if I get around to doing it. But I've got some other stuff here. I've got Shermans, and I've got some stuff that's already this already came like this. This is die cast. This is all one thing, and just like that's a Matchbox kit, and this one is too. Panzer IV-H. I got them because I'm like, okay, well, am I going to repaint this? Well, I haven't gotten around to repainting it. Hell, I don't even play the rules, so why should I repaint it unless I got wild hair up my ass? Here's a Panther I did do. This is a Hasegawa kit, I believe. But there's no weathering on it or anything. It's not painted bad, but I could do better than that. I brought these out Saturday or Sunday, whatever. Here's a SDK of Z251. Just have some dry brush on it. We could do better. This isn't bad, but we could do better than that. These Russian tanks will look better than this. Because I don't mind doing some pin washing and stuff like that, but I don't know if I want to get into chipping and all that stuff. Some of that stuff is just like, whoa. And I got other hobbies, I can't spend all day on one tank. The most I spent on one vehicle was this guy right here. This guy took a long time to paint. And you can see this was back in the day when I sealed everything in semi-gloss, and I kind of ruined it. Well, it's easy to fix, but I actually bought the Humbrol paint that's from this. So this is actually an enamel paint, which is unheard of for me to use. I'd probably use it now, but back then, I wouldn't have used it. This is a Britannia kit, and it has several shades built up, kind of the same way that I paint now. But it looks all right. I'd probably still bring it up some more, but there's probably a Vallejo equivalent to this color, and yeah, and bring it up some more. I didn't have the decals on there, so I kind of painted the little numbering system. Oh yeah, and the Bruta tanks have like the coolest freaking numbers. Well, the Germans have cool stuff too. I mean, that's obvious. Everybody knows that. But the little regiment numbers that the British use, I find that the fact that they're colorful adds that little pop that that gives them a nice look. So, but yeah, this is a resin kit, white metal, running gear, and yeah, a good old 17-pounder. You don't want to get hit by that thing. But anyhow, yeah, some of the vehicles that I have there, and but I haven't done anything with them, so it's just too easy to it's too easy to play DBA and get a game in and finish it, you know. Okay, you did a 28 millimeter capture M113 last year. Big kangaroos painted on the turret. Looks great. Okay, yeah, the ones that they captured and they used in the defense of Tobruk. You need a Citroen and a Renault as well. uh, you like Flames of War models, the rules not so much. Yeah. Yeah, the rules are a bit World War II-ish. And they might work for other people, but some of us are disciples of that kind of stuff. So I don't want to. I want to play a set of rules where Crusader 1's different than a 2. You know. Oh man, good times, good times. Maybe you guys see some tank coming up soon. I'm sure people don't mind variety. You know, too much of the same thing. So, but yeah. Oh, this is dry now. No, it's 11:15, so it's time for me to go bye bye because I got to wake up at 5 anyways. But thanks for stopping by. Um, we will see each other soon. See you, Paul. Hopefully you're continuing to do well. And yeah, maybe there's some tanks in the future here. And we'll just see where this takes us. So, anyhow, until next time, we'll catch you guys later and happy painting. Bye bye.